Hello and welcome to a video tour of radio stations WSPC and WZKY in Albemarle, North Carolina. I'm Matt Smith and I'll be taking you through our studios today to take a look at what we have going on here and some general information and some probably fairly technical information about our stations. This is our lobby, and this is one feature we're really proud to have back in the studios. It's an old antique stand-up radio, still has the tubes in the back, still works. At least we can get WZKY on it, but the tower is probably 100 yards away from the radio here in our backyard. But that's the only station we can get. But it will pick it up and play it. The one on the table is a replica there, but this is our lobby. And over here on this side, we have our offices. We're not going to take you through that part because it's just boring offices. Nobody really wants to see boring offices, but everybody would like to see radio stations, how they work, how they operate. And through the lobby, we can see into the window of the WSPC on-air studio. We'll go in there in a few minutes. And to the left here, we have our production studio, which is where we're going now. As we walk in here, you'll hear you may hear it on the recording, I don't know, the acoustics change because of the carpeting on the walls. That's to deaden the echo and keep things nice and tight in here as far as acoustics. And here is our production studio. As of today, we still have a good old turntable in here. You'll see another turntable as we go through, a CD recorder, cassette recorder. We still have an old reel-to-reel. We've got another one of those as well in our studios. We still use those from time to time, mostly for archive purposes and for bringing things back that are archived on other media that we still want to use, but we still have them and actively use them. So it's good to keep that technology alive. But most all we need these days is what you're looking at right here. It's one computer, two screens. On the right side, you will see our TLC software. It's called TLC Trim, Label, and Convert. But it is the production side of our automation software, which we'll go more into when we get into an on-air studio. But we record the commercials in here and put them into this software, assign them a number, and once they get a number, that goes into our traffic and billing system, and it tells our on-air computers what number to pull up and which commercial to play. But that's where we put our commercials when we produce them, or news cuts or interviews or anything like that. On this screen is Adobe Audition. It's a great multi-track editor, recorder. We use this a lot. You can record voice, then you can add music and sound effects. You can edit, speed up, slow down, cut and paste, add effects in the background, change the tone, the graphic equalizers, and all that type of stuff. It's just really great software. Helps us out a lot, and we produce it there, mix it down, put it in there, and send it on through the network to our server and goes into our studios. And this is our control board for our production room. Fairly simple, but it's a Audio Arts Air 1. It's a great little board, and it's just 8 channels, and you don't really need as many channels as you used to in a production facility or even on air necessarily anymore. But in our on-air studios, we've got 12, and here we only need 8, and it's all we need, and actually more. But it's a good little board. It's made for broadcast purposes and in situations like this, so it's just perfect for us. It's a good quality unit. And of course, we've got our phone, and we've got another computer here we don't have on right now, but it's kind of a secondary recording computer to record other parts to dub back over and that type of thing, and as a backup. And of course, the CD recorder, the cassette, those are kind of backups, and the turntable again, just to bring some of our records into the digital world from time to time as we need them. And over here we've got a dual mic setup, and I'll walk around here. So if we're bringing folks in to interview or talk to them, or as a guest to record their own commercials or that type of thing, they'll come in here and they'll sit in these chairs and record into one of these microphones, or both, as we're recording whatever it is, whether it's a commercial or an interview or whatever. So that is our production room. The rack over here has a reel-to-reel that still works. We rarely use it, and it actually has an old satellite receiver up there, but that satellite receiver is no longer in use. and it actually has been discontinued, but that's a good place to keep it. In this room, as we walk, this is kind of a between room for our studios. It faces the on-air studio for WSPC, and we use it for a record library. You can see all those are 45 RPM records with good old rock and roll from the 50s and 60s, 70s, kind of that era. Up there, we have some CDs that are Southern gospel music from when WABZ FM used to be here. It was Southern gospel music. Coincidentally, that's what most of the CDs in that rack are as well. Some Southern gospel. And down here, we have some 33 RPM records that, again, are mostly old gospel records. But these are some of the really old gospel records. But this room, other than housing our 45 collection, is good for interviews. If we bring somebody in to do a live on-air interview with Leon will sit in there, and we'll go live, and we'll put the person or persons behind these mics, and we will go live, and Leon can talk to him right through the glass there. And so that's what we use this room for. That and in storage, you see some reel-to-reels up there, and I will show you some of these old tape cartridges. You can see these here is a tape cartridge. That is what we used to use for commercials. It looks a lot like an 8-track tape, but it's basically a loop of tape, and it will re-cue itself to the beginning. These are usually 40 seconds or 70 seconds. This particular one is 40 seconds long, and you record a 30-second commercial on it. And the cart machines that we used to have, I think we've still got one in the building. We'll see if we come across it in the tour. Would re-cue these and you play them, but each commercial had to be hand played on one of those cartridges. So that's a little bit of the past history there. There's another reel-to-reel that's just sitting there right now, and another stack of cartridges. This room, when we played records, as a regular part of live music rotation. The records, the DJ would come in from the studio and come in here and pick a bunch of records and go back in, and back and forth all the time, getting different records and things like that. So as we move from here, we move into our WSPC on-air studio, and you can see back here we've got a rack of 33 1/3 RPM records, and it's got 50s, 60s, 70s, again, a bunch of that music. We've got a lot of Christmas music that is housed on here. A lot of times we'll use the record players, and you see we have one still here in the on-air studio in case we want to play a record live on the air that we haven't dubbed over yet. On top is a retired broadcast console, BE 8M150A. That particular console was the on-air console for WSPC here for many years, and still good working condition. We retired it to upgrade, and they quit making parts for it, so we knew that at one point we would be stranded without it. So as we turn around and take a look, this is our current WSPC on-air studio. This is the board that has replaced that board. It's again a Audio Arts. This is the Air 4, the latest generation of the Audio Arts consoles. 12 channel, each channel has 2 inputs, and it's been a great board for us. I mean, just fabulous. You couldn't ask for better. But it really does, we've got something on almost every channel, but we very rarely use more than about 5 of the channels on here, because most everything, comes from computer these days. We have a secondary computer in here that's just a regular internet computer that we bring things off of for the internet and do different things. We have on top there is a little processor. It's just a audio processor that feeds our stream. Below that is a POTS unit for the codec that we very rarely use. We used to use these. We have another unit that goes with it, and at a remote location it'll dial in and talk to this one, and it'll make a digital signal to make it sound just like you're in the studio. But it was something we used for a number of years. We haven't used it in a while because better, cheaper technology, but we still have it here. It's a good backup to have. And these are a couple of CD players that we still use from time to time. A lot as a backup, but every now and then we need to play something off a CD, whether it's a program or even some music. But that's the equipment in the studio. And this is our on-air automation software, which is SS32. It was originally designed by Scott Studios, and when we bought it, it was owned by Google, the internet company Google. It's been since bought out by Wide Orbit and upgraded a little bit, but this version is still fairly modern and works really well. What you see on the left-hand side here is our current log, our next 6 events. Right now it's playing the Laura Ingraham program, and that event turns it on our satellite on that channel, and then you'll see when it sends a cue to our computer knows to fire that the next break is a 2-minute break, and it's got the 2 minutes worth of commercials right there, and that's what the green ones are, is commercials, and then it'll go on down the log. And if we can click here on log, it'll show you a better view of the log. After that Union Power ad, it'll play a liner, then go right back to Laura Ingraham program, and so on down the line. So that's a good look at how that software works. We generate logs that has a set format from the network, and then the computer will play the network, and the network will send a tone that tells the computer, all right, time for a commercial break. The computer already knows ahead of time how long that commercial break is going to be. The traffic software has filled it with commercials and instructions with our orders, and so there we go. We can run all day unattended. The green buttons on the right are the hot buttons, and then we put things on there. It's mostly for during live interaction, things that we want quick access to. You can just click on those and bam, they're right there. You don't have to go look for them. So we've got some hot buttons right there that we can use during live and during morning show. So in here, in this WSPC studio, we run the morning show with Leon Warren from 6 until 10, including the trading post between 9 and 10. The rest of the day it runs just like it is now with nobody sitting here. It's completely automated, and it does really well. The software very rarely fails. Every now and then it will as a computer, but it very rarely will fail us, and it runs 24/7. Now at night we do have to go to low power because of the FCC and some AM requirements, but we still have pretty good coverage on 1010 at low power, so that's a good thing. But we do run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and of course we're streaming online 24/7 as well. So great ways to get our signal out. We also have our signal streamed over to Stanley Community College, and they put us on Time Warner Cable Channel 21, and we do that. For 1010, we put 1010 on between 6 and 10 a.m., then we switch over to 1580 for WZKY on Channel 21 when they're not running a program. So they run a bulletin board and have WZKY's music in our background, and we'll go over to WZKY and talk about that station in just a couple of minutes. For you techies, I want to take you back here into the transmitter room as we walk around. Now it's a little bit noisy with the fan going, so I apologize if the audio quality changes, but I'm going to open the door and show you what we have back here. This unit is our transmitter for WZKY. It's about the size of a refrigerator. It's all solid state. It's a 1 kilowatt Harris Gates 1 AM transmitter, and it's doing really well. It's been a great unit. It's been on the air here since about 1986. Now the ones they have now are about 6 rack units, which is probably about the size of that, and for the same amount of power. So they have gotten smaller, but this one has done really well for us. This is the one that was prior to that. It is an RCA tube transmitter, and this one was only 250 watts. Matter of fact, we still have it plugged up, and I can open the door and you can see the tubes glow there. So a little bit of history there for you. We have had some problems with it, and it will not broadcast anymore, but it will still power up and light up the tubes. So that's just something neat to show folks every now and again. Over here is our equipment rack, and you can see it's all the way up to the ceiling. And we have basically a bunch of satellite receivers. The blue unit there is our switcher. It switches between different satellite channels. Our computer controls that. And this is our AM stereo for WZKY. WZKY broadcasts in AM stereo, which we're one of the first stations in the country to go AM stereo. And this is actually the original equipment. It's been repaired a few times and may not last much longer, honestly, but we're working to replace a little bit of it and keep that AM stereo legacy alive. But this is our exciter here and our modulation monitor, and the OptiMod is a modulation unit that all stations have. Well, they don't have the OptiMod necessarily, but this is the one that we use, one of the best in the industry. But it is a number of years old, but it's still a good, solid sounding on-air processor. We've got one just like that for 1010 out at the tower site. Our transmitter for 1010 is identical to this one. It's 1 kilowatt Gates 1 transmitter. Looks just exactly like that one. And our OptiMod is identical to this as well. The blue unit there is our EAS unit. That's where we get our emergency alert service tones. Those things are fed down, and this unit automatically interrupts whatever audio that we have coming over the air, and will put out the alert, and it just takes care of that automatically. Now this unit right here I want to show you, it's a Barracks unit. Barracks is the company, the silver unit here. And the reason I want to show you that is it's very interesting. We've got a number of these units. We do a lot of our high school football and basketball broadcasts with those now. You have one on each end, and you hook them up to an internet connection, and they connect and find each other, and they send just good studio quality audio over the internet wherever you're at. In fact, the one that we have that we send to our football and basketball games, we have on a cellular Wi-Fi hotspot, so we are mobile just about anywhere that we have a cell signal. We can hook that up and just have a digital studio quality feed right back to our studios. And it's worked really, really well for us, and those units get a pair of units is about $600, so it's not nearly as expensive as the codec I showed you earlier, and those units new are about $4,000 for the pair. So technology has come a long way here in the last few years, as it normally does. This is our sound systems. It's a remote control unit for the transmitter. So if the transmitter power goes off, it will call a given set of numbers. The first call goes to my cell phone, and I can turn it back on or determine that the power's off and have to wait. But if I need to call it up and turn it on or off, I can do that. And that sound systems controls all of that. We've got a little patch bay there to patch audio throughout the building, a processor, and some encoders for the Nielsen people, and a couple more satellite receivers. And that is basically the equipment for the techies in our rack. If you have more questions about that, of course, you can feel free to contact us and ask questions. Over here, I know it's kind of messy, but I thought I would show you. This is an equalizer that feeds our phone lines that we carry our 1010 signal to our transmitter side over an open, dry phone line, and we just use this equalizer to equalize it on this end. We have another one on the other end, and that's how we get our signal back to the tower site, is just over a dry, open phone line. It's been super dependable for us over the years. And this, for any internet folks that are interested, about a year ago I switched over our 4 phone lines to Magic Jacks. These are the Magic Jacks you see on TV. It cost us for 1 month now, or for the whole year, what 1 month used to cost us in telephone service. So each line has its own Magic Jack, and plugged them right into the phone system there, and it works like a charm. So anyway, that's our equipment room here. As we move back into our WSPC studio, we'll walk across the hall, and take a look at a couple of things over there. But again, our WSPC studios we walk through, and in here, room is a little bit messy, so we're not going to spend a lot of time in here. But these are some old computers from the previous automation system, which was accessed by Scott Studios, a previous version. Pretty different from what we have now, but still it was rock solid, and actually had it in use at another station until maybe about a year ago or so. This is our computer where we do our streaming. It feeds our live streaming on WSPC and WZKY, and we've got a processor and an equalizer there for it. And we talked about the barracks unit. This is the unit that sends the audio to channel 21 for Stanley Community College. And just a little switch there that we use to switch back and forth between the feeding it WSPC and WZKY. So, and this humble little machine down here is our server. It keeps all of our computers connected together. So that is what keeps us all together. As we walk into the next room over, this is the on-air studio for WZKY 1580 AM stereo. You'll notice the reel. That one is works, and we've been using it to dub off some things that we have on reel that we want to keep. It's one of the more modern ones we have, a good unit. And we've got a cassette recorder and a CD recorder and a CD player there. Still in use from time to time, not very often, but this is our main studio for WZKY. You can see the automation system is very similar, and our board is similar. This is just one generation prior to the one on WSPC. It's the Audio Arts Air 3. Very similar. Main change is the color of the thing. Other than that, it's pretty much the same. Now in here we do things a little bit differently. We do a music format. It's oldies, 50s, 60s, and we used to run a satellite format, but it really got to be too much heading towards the 80s and 90s, and classic hits is what they called it, but it was really moving up and out of the good old 50s and 60s that we and our listeners really like. So what we did was we switched. Now we're running all of our music ourselves off of our own playlists, and it runs all the music is on our hard drive on our computer, and we have some liners and different things and commercials, and our computer just runs it all, mixes it up, and makes sure we've got it on a format that has a good mix to it and our listeners really enjoy. So the same software that does the satellite automation can do the oldies and the music mix very well. And of course, in here in the mornings between 5 a.m. and 10 a.m. Weekday mornings, we run the Rick and Bubba program, which I like to say it's like John Boy and Billy. A lot of people around here know what John Boy and Billy is, but it's a clean show, but it's very funny, and we run that in the mornings off of satellite, and then switch over to the all music off of our own playlist, our own hard drive here, to keep us right in that oldies groove and the good, feel good 50s, 60s oldies that a lot of people enjoy. So that's how we do that, and that's what we do here on WZKY. We don't do a lot live out of here anymore. That's really kind of why we're set up this way. We've got this is one of the old previous automation computers that we had set up, and this is just an internet computer. But we don't, again, do a lot out of here. Sometimes a secondary production studio we can do on the Program 2 side of this board, but we don't really do a lot of that either. So this one really sits and runs itself just about all day, and which is a great fun thing to do. But it's great music, and we don't want to interrupt it and mess with it, and we just want to keep it going. So that's WZKY AM Stereo 1580. Of course, we also run our weather and our local news in here. I do want to tell you about our weather. It's a secret that I'll let out of the bag, but our weather is from a service called Unattended Weather. And if you've heard our weather, it's Maria Lopez, but what they do is they upload a bunch of the audio cuts of her saying partly cloudy or rainy or different things like that. And then the software goes and gets the forecast off of the internet, and it puts her voice saying the forecast together, and then it puts it into a 30-second cut and sends it to our computer here, and it airs it, and it sounds like she's giving the current temperature and giving us the current conditions and the forecast. And as long as the internet doesn't go down and we have it on the forecast, that works pretty well. So that's how we do our weather forecast these days. And a couple of old records there on the wall, and a little guest area here. We do have some junk over here, but a couple of vintage pieces I wanted to show you. This is actually an old console. This is a BE8S100. We actually used in the production studio here for a couple of years. Good quality board, but about 70s vintage, and it's still in storage here, still works, but we just don't have the heart to get rid of it. We like to keep around some of these older things. And this is just a smaller version, a 5-channel version of the other board that we saw earlier. And that little unit right there is a cart machine. I showed you the carts earlier that we used to record commercials on, but that's a machine that used to play them, and it still works. We dug one off not too long ago using that very machine. So that's a good look at the radio stations and a tour of the stations. A little bit of history. That's a picture of this building as it was back in I think 1994, before the addition was built. So, and we have the tower for WZKY out back behind the station here. Our tower for 1010 is out up on Highway 52 North behind Dollar General and Subway, and that's where we broadcast 1010 from. So that is a tour of our stations. I hope you've enjoyed the tour, and we're glad to have you along. Anytime you want to come and take a look in person, give us a call, let us know. But I've enjoyed having you here today, and thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening to 1010 WSPC and 1580 WZKY.